In this video, I want to demonstrate how to create a so-called disclosure in the ESG Data Exchange Network software and explain the various actions you can take with it. First, let's consider what is actually a disclosure. If a company wants to publish an ESG report, it naturally has to collect a lot of data in this ESG report. That means these are both internal data on CO2 emissions, but also many other ESG relevant data, but also data on emissions and other ESG relevant data along the value chain. To collect this data from the suppliers of the value chain, disclosures known as disclosures are required. In these disclosures, companies indicate the emissions they have emitted or the emissions that have been emitted in relation to their products and services. That means as a supplier, I can create a so-called disclosure in this software to provide my customers with the CO2 emissions that I charge them for, so to speak, in order to ensure transparency and accountability. That means my customers can automatically retrieve from the software what CO2 emissions have occurred for them. Now let's examine in detail how we can create a disclosure within the context of this software application. To do this, we click on the Disclosures tab on the left, and now we can already see a series of disclosures that have been created for this company. For this case though, I want to make a new disclosure. Now I perceive a form where I have the ability to input all of the pertinent information. Initially, it pertains to the period of reporting. This is the period for which I'm currently creating a CO2 equivalent report. Now we come to the topic of allocation method and greenhouse gas data level. To comprehend the points allocation method and greenhouse gas data level, it is necessary to reiterate the clarity regarding how our customers will ultimately calculate their share of CO2 emissions from our CO2 emissions. Our customers have a wide range of options for calculating and determining their individual CO2 share. On one hand, they could exceed sales share. That implies they can observe my company's total revenue. And what were the total emissions for my total sales, and then calculate the magnitude or extent of their share of sales. There are similar methods to go through the sold mass or the sold energy or the sold number of pieces. However, a much more accurate method is to choose the so-called product carbon footprint. In the product carbon footprint, I provide details on a product level about the CO2 emissions that have occurred there. That means my client has the ability to determine the precise level of his carbon dioxide emissions throughout the supply chain, taking into account the specific products he bought from me. In this example, we choose the product footprint here. This is how I indicate my carbon dioxide emissions based on a product. That implies I select one piece for the number of units, as I have already computed my emissions per individual part. By the way, I notice here in the top right corner of the information box the carbon dioxide emissions for scope 1, 2, and 3, as well as the supplier-specific emission factor. Now I can also specify here for which product I would like to create this disclosure. Now I am able to specify the corresponding data for this product in scope 1, 2, and 3. We will do this relatively quickly now, as these are only sample data. I am now entering 0.02 tons per piece here in scope 1, as per the given instructions. In scope 2, I input 0.04 for market-based. And regarding scope 3, we are aware of this. This is a large form that encompasses many possibilities. I'll just say 0.06 for uncategorized emissions, now 6 say. So I am able to see here that I will be publishing a total of 0.12 metric tons of CO2 equivalent emissions in this report. And because they're naturally a piece, there are also 0.12 tons of CO2 equivalent emissions per piece. Now I am able to navigate to the bottom of the form and choose between clicking on Save, Draft and Close if I wish to keep editing, or on Submit Data. And now I see my finished published disclosure here in the ESG Data Exchange Network. So I see the reporting period that I just mentioned, my product carbon footprint with all the information as confirmed in the form. Important, I see a QR code at the top right of the page. This QR code enables third parties to verify my data independently as I've published it in the ESG Data Exchange Network.